What's up, YouTube? Please like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're recapping all of this weekend's action. Up next, what's up and welcome into Fantasy Baseball today on Monday, May 9th. Frank Stampfl joined by Scott White and Chris Towers. I want to wish a very happy Mother's Day to all the great moms out there, including mine. So thank you if you're listening. I know you're not. It's fine. Today on the show, let's talk about these prospect promotions, starter sit, waiver wire ads and drops, and much more. Take it away, Susan.
Oh my goodness gracious.
I do love that the anniversary of that call from Susan was recently, and I had a bunch of people tweeting at me, so I just thought that I would throw that out there. A lot of people now know where that call is from, so happy to do it. Let's talk about George Kirby here. He is, oh my goodness gracious for me, and it'll just kind of like lead into the conversation about all these prospects that were called up. One of the top pitching prospects in all of baseball for the Seattle Mariners, George Kirby, promoted on Sunday, and he was awesome in his first start. 6 shutout innings, 7 strikeouts, 4 hits, 0 walks. He had 15 swinging strikes on 81 pitches, 13 of those coming on the fastball. Scott, George Kirby is 52% rostered. Is he a must-add? Is this a universal add in any fantasy league where he's available?
I mean, people presented me with scenarios on Twitter where I had to tell them, no, I guess you can't add him. But like, this is as close to a must add as I think you're going to find mid-season. Short of Grayson, like you could argue George Kirby is the best pitching prospect other than Grayson Rodriguez. So he's especially high stature. I mean, higher in prospect than Matt Brash, to be sure. And like the way Kirby especially excels is the way we saw Brash struggle. Like he has uncanny control for somebody who's such a good bat misser. I mean, when his minor league career first started, I saw those walk numbers and I was like, man, this reminds me of like what Shane Bieber used to be doing in the minors. And then since then, George Kirby's gained all this velocity and can throw like 98 miles per hour now. And he was getting all these swings and misses. I think most of the swinging misses today came on the fastball itself, which is a very good sign that your stuff is strong if you don't even have to rely on off-speed stuff to get a bunch of swings and misses. So I think this is going to go really well. I think you should bid a ton of fab dollars on George Kirby. I mean, the one hesitation is he's not a hitter, and most people probably need hitters more than pitchers right now. But you know, at some point, you're going to need another pitcher. Well, I can promise you that.
It's all relative, right? Like, everyone's pitchers look good, but if you've got a guy with a 3.7 ERA, he's not actually helping you right now. And so that's the kind of thing you also have to keep in mind is like, there's still someone who's 12th place in ERA in every roto league. You know, like that's your ERA might not be bad. And so you might look at your team and think, wow, my pitching's not that bad, but you probably still need some pitching help. So
everybody needs pitching help, like always, whether it's maximizing 2-star weeks.
You will.
Yeah, right.
At some point.
Right.
Even if you don't right now, you definitely will eventually.
You may never need another third baseman, but you will definitely need another pitcher at some point. And other than Grayson Rodriguez getting called, I expect him to get called up at some point this year. You know, Max Meyer, we expect him to get called up soon. I imagine those are going to be pretty exciting pickups.
Shane Baz, if he's not rostered.
Baz, yeah, if he got dropped. But other than that, like I think Kirby's probably the best you can expect to do at this point at that position. I'm sure somebody will emerge in like June who we didn't see coming. Like, I don't know, maybe randomly. Jordan Hicks starts striking out a bunch of guys going 6+ innings. Oh, Jordan Hicks, you got to spend all your fab dollars on him. But like Kirby is somebody you want to pay up for sure.
And it's worth mentioning the Mariners are being pretty aggressive in calling him up. George Kirby has made 5 starts at AA this season. He had 6 starts at AA last year, but he's actually a little bit older. He's 24 years old, former first-round pick in 2019. Chris, just to put a bow on this conversation, I believe you won George Kirby in one of your leagues where there is fab. How much did you spend on him? What was the winning bid there?
Yeah, the winning bid for that one was 174. That was in my Tout Wars league. I did get him. The second highest bid was only 77, so I didn't have to go that high, but that's not one that I'm particularly worried about having overspent. There was one where I overspent by about 100 in another league, and it was like 113-3. I feel a little worse about that one. I probably could have used those extra bucks, but George Kirby is the kind of prospect getting called up, like Scott said, especially with how good he looked today, that I feel pretty confident about making that kind of bid.
Yeah, I think 15 to 20% of your budget is appropriate. That's what I've gone for. And I actually haven't won them yet with the amounts that I've bid. Chris, it worked for Chris in that league, but it hasn't worked for me yet. Yeah. Hopefully one of the bids that goes through tonight.
All right, so go out there and get George Kirby if he is available in any of your leagues. Scott, oh my goodness gracious for you from the weekend.
So there are some other exciting prospect call-ups that I'm sure we'll get to.
Yes.
Weekend for those. But I'm going to go with somebody who has been up in the majors for a little while now, Justin Winder of the Minnesota Twins, who had another great start. Granted, it was against the A's. 6 innings, 3 hits, no walks, 8 strikeouts, had 16 swinging strikes on 80 pitches. Interestingly, we think of him as a fastball slider guy. He threw those 2 pitches a combined 78% of the time in this one. But he got 4 swinging strikes on 9 changeups. And that's been something like the changeup has been effective for him if little used. So like there's an arsenal there for Josh Winder to work with. Not a big prospect pedigree from this guy, but like he's looked good in the bit we've seen him start. Like he looks like he belongs in the Twins rotation. And I was hesitant because I wasn't sure how long he'd last. It seemed like once they got everybody healthy that he would be the odd man out. But now somebody else is going on the IL. Presumably Chris Paddock had to leave Sunday's start with inflammation in his elbow. That sounds like an IL worthy injury. And that means Josh Winder figures to stay in the rotation for the foreseeable future. And who knows what happens between now and then. I mean, Chris Archer could get hurt or just, prove to not be a viable option. So, I mean, Josh Winder may very likely be in there for the long haul. And he's another pitcher who's showing good strikeout potential, good upside.
Very interested in Josh Winder as well. That's 2 straight quality starts with at least 7 strikeouts in each of those. And he's made a couple of starts. He's made a couple of relief appearances. So far, his arsenal, he throws 4 different pitches, 13+% of the time, right around a 13% swinging strike rate. He gets a good amount of ground balls. Big right-handed pitcher, Josh Winder is. Minor league numbers look fantastic as well. Mm-hmm. I'm in. I'm about it. I mean, obviously, I would be more aggressive on adding George Kirby. Obvious reasons, the prospect pedigree. But, man, after George Kirby, Winder is a pitcher I'm definitely looking to add.
Yeah, I was raving about Kirby's walk rate in the minors. Last year in the minors, Winder himself, 1.6 BB per 9. And for his entire minor league career, 1.9 walks per 9. So, based on what we're seeing from this guy so far, it's kind of surprising he wasn't more of a prospect than he was because he looks great.
For sure. All right, Chris, take us home. Oh, my goodness gracious. Another pitcher to talk about.
Yeah, I had myself muted. I hope there's no. Can you guys hear the police siren?
Yeah,
they're coming for Alex Cobb.
You're a bad boy, Chris.
For how good he was, how filthy he was, what he did to the Cardinals on Friday. I mean, it wasn't that amazing of a start, but 19 swinging strikes on 74 pitches for Alex Cobb, 8 strikeouts in 5 innings, 2 earned runs. He's been up and down this season. He's dealt with what was his injury? I'm blanking on it right now.
Let me look it up.
But either way, I
think it might have been a groin or something.
What's that?
Might have been a groin.
Yeah, it was groin injury. He's added a couple of ticks to his fastball velocity. That was something we saw in spring training, and it's held up so far. He averaged 95 miles per hour with his fastball in his most recent start. He's at 94.7. That's 2 miles per hour higher than it was last season. And that's coming along with his splitter, which he's throwing 48% of the time, which has always been his most important and best pitch. And it's working out really well for him so far. And so I liked Alex Cobb a lot as a sleeper coming into the season. The results have been not as great as I would hope for so far, but 14 swinging misses with the splitter, 4 with the curveball in his most recent start as well. So Very, very promising signs from Alex Cobb so far. He only threw his fastballs 24% of the time in this start, and that's probably not a bad thing.
And I think there's a chance you could still buy him, Chris, just because the overall numbers still don't look great. He had that one start where he didn't even escape the first inning, his first start back from his injury. The 4.80 ERA, 1.53 WHIP doesn't look good for Cobb, but the underlying numbers look absolutely fantastic. So if you could turn someone like Noah Syndergaard into Alex Cobb, I know pitcher for pitcher trades are not the easiest to pull off. Chris, if you could turn Mackenzie Gore into Alex Cobb, would you do that?
I think I would. I think I would rather have Alex Cobb the rest of the season. Between concerns about how long Mackenzie Gore is going to stay in the rotation and just, I feel more confident that Alex Cobb's going to be effective moving forward based on what we've seen from Mackenzie Gore so far with the kind of lack of swings and misses on the secondary pitches, especially.
One other name here.
I think I would too. Trade Gore for Cobb. The one thing about Cobb though is like his health history is just
very
dreadful. Bad. Like that's presumably that's not going to be his last stint on the IL. So keep that in mind. I think that makes it a closer call. But just in terms of how effective I think they'll be, I agree. Cobb over Gore.
Scott, would you flip Merrill Kelly for Alex Cobb if you could? A near complete game for Merrill Kelly this weekend, 8 2/3, 1 run, 8 strikeouts.
Yeah, I'm kind of ready to put Merrill Kelly in the sell high column. Like I picked him up in a lot of leagues at the start of the season, and he's been my best pitcher in those leagues so far. But a lot of the encouraging signs I was seeing early on with the changeup, especially how effective it was looking, they've kind of normalized in recent starts. Only 3 whiffs on the changeup in this one. And I think he's looking more like typical Merrill Kelly now. And, typical Merrill Kelly could have thrown a 7-inning 1-run start too. It's not like that was something he never did. But in the long run, I'm expecting an ERA close to 4.
I think I'm a little more optimistic about Merrill Kelly. I think I would rather have him than Cobb moving forward. But I think you bring some good points. The thing I like seeing is fastball usage is down to 41% this season. So even if it's not just throwing the changeup, it's not throwing the collective fastballs as often, especially the 4-seamer, which got hit really hard last season.
Maybe you wait to sell high after this next start too, because he's got the Marlins this upcoming week, and obviously that's a pretty good matchup. So
they've been pretty bad, yeah.
All right, let's talk about some of those other prospects that we alluded to, and we had quite a few get called up this weekend. Diamondbacks outfield prospect Alek Thomas, he was hitting .277 with 4 homers, 3 steals, and .857 OPS at AAA. Twins shortstop prospect Royce Lewis, which we speculated could happen on Thursday night's podcast. He was called up on Friday, former first overall pick back in 2017. He was stealing a bunch of bases, high OPS in the minors this year, 44% rostered. And then a few other names here that are just performing well. Juan Yepez went 2 for 3 with his first home run on Sunday, now has 9 hits over his first 5 games.
Worth pointing out, we made some jokes about Juan Yepez's getting his debut, had a couple of doubles that were just like bloop nothing hits. He crushed that one. His first home run, I think, was today, right?
Yes.
He got into that one. That one wasn't a cheapie.
Yeah, so he looks good so far. And they're finding ways to get him in the lineup too. He's played some right field, DH, so I like what I've seen there.
I think he's had multiple hits in every game but one. He's the new Frankie 2 hits, who, by the way, got optioned to the minors.
Oh, Scott, come on. We can't start off the week like this. Don't do that to my man, Frank Schwindel. The other name I wanted to mention, Jose Miranda. I saw a lot of people with big bids on him on Sunday night. He's 42% rostered. The results haven't been great so far. He hit his first home run of the season on Friday. But Chris, we'll start with you. How would you rank these 4 prospect hitters? Alek Thomas, Royce Lewis, Juan Yepez, Jose Miranda.
I think Thomas is by far the most interesting of this group. He's, I believe, the most highly ranked consensus prospect among the group. And he's hit 332 with a 996 OPS in 58 games across AAA going back to last season. So his numbers were pretty good this season. He crushed AAA last year, especially. 17.7% walk rate, 12 homers and 8 steals in 58 games. That's there's a lot to like about that, and there's the potential for him to be a 5-category contributor for fantasy. So I do think Alek Thomas is by far the most interesting of them. He's 22 years old, so he's never been old for his levels either. There are, I think some concerns about, like, he hasn't struck out much in the high minors, but there are questions about his hit tool, and it could be, we've seen it with Jared Kelenic, looked like about as safe a prospect as you could based on the profile in the high minors, and that hasn't worked out. So it's obviously entirely possible the same could be the case for Alek Thomas, but I'm very excited. I comped him to like 2021 Randy Arozarena as like a higher end outcome, like 2020 potential, won't hurt you in batting average. Maybe something more like 2021 Andrew Benintendi is a more reasonable expectation. And, for what you want to say about Andrew Benintendi, like, he had 17 homers and 8 steals and hit 276. Like, he was decent last year. The counting stats were mostly what held him back. So I think there's that kind of production potential, and there are enough questions about everyone else here that I think Alek Thomas stands apart.
All right, Scott, how do you rank these 4? Alek Thomas, Royce Lewis, Juan Yepez, Jose Miranda. I'll just point out quickly with Royce Lewis, I think we're all very excited about him. The Carlos Correa situation's up in the air right now because it turns out he doesn't have a fracture, but he also did not play the entire weekend. So how are you ranking these 4, Scott? Thomas, Lewis, Yepez, Miranda.
Yeah, I'm a little more torn than Chris. I think the biggest point in Alek Thomas's favor is that he's the most likely to stick around. And I'm not even 100% sure that he will, because it's kind of weird how he got called up. Their catcher, Carson Kelly, got hurt. And so, okay, we'll take our center fielder, move him to catcher, Dalton Varsho. And that'll open up center field for this prospect of ours, Alek Thomas. So that's kind of weird. But okay, Royce Lewis obviously has the most questionable path to at bats, since the guy he's replacing isn't even on the IL. I will, however, point out that Trevor Larnach just went on the IL, so there's another opening in the lineup, and Royce Lewis, he could play anywhere except catcher. He's played second, third, center field in the minors, so he could be their left fielder, I think. I mean, if I was managing the Twins, I would say so. So, like, Alek Thomas has always been a highly rated prospect, but until last year, it was hard for me to understand why. Like, definitely like an athletic guy, and I think he gets some of those like intangible points. And the big question for him was always his power. And he did hit for power last year, but it was in these really hitter-friendly environments. And I know, like, Baseball America gave him a 45 power grade even entering this year, so they're still not giving him much credit as a power hitter. 45 is considered below average, if you don't know, on the 20/80 scale. 50's average, so I gave him a 45. MLB.com was more optimistic. They gave him a 55. He does only have like a 25% fly ball rate, so that's obviously not very good for maximizing power. So I don't know. He's not going to be a 0 for power, but he's going to be a power hitter ever. I'm not confident in that. I used to say I'll bet on that sort of prospect who showed everything but the big power, because power you can cultivate easily. I'm not so sure about that anymore with the way the league landscape has changed. So I'm not as willing to bet on that. But he should provide some speed. He should be, if all goes right, of some good in batting average. I think he's a safer bet than Lewis, but I really like Lewis, like the changes he's made to his swing and just like the drive he seems to have this year coming off the torn ACL. He was running so much in the minors. I hope the Twins find a way to keep him around, but because it is there's a chance he could be sent down before the end of the week. I think you have to go Thomas over him. Now, Yepez and Miranda, they're not going to steal your bases, obviously, the way those other two will. So, that factors into the decision making. I think if you need a third baseman, Miranda immediately jumps to the top of the list because while he hasn't been, crushing the ball so far, you mentioned he had his first home run over the weekend, Frank. Miranda has struck out once, one time in almost 30 plate appearances. So, he belongs, I think it's safe to say, and they've been playing him every day. Yepez, as you mentioned, he's been playing every day. I kind of just bid the same amount on all these guys in Tout Wars over the weekend because I couldn't decide between them. So I was kind of just willing to let everybody else decide with their bids, and I didn't want to miss out on any of them. But to a certain degree, it depends on need as far as stolen bases go, as far as third base goes. Part of the reason I faded Yepez maybe in comparisons because I just didn't have much room for corner infielders, But that's how I'd break it down.
How much were you bidding on these names, by the way, Scott?
So in the 15-team leagues, I was bidding 10 to 12%. It's pretty high.
Yeah.
In the 12-team leagues, more like 5 to 10%.
All right. Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, that's what I saw in the 12-team leagues. That's what I saw. Yepez went for $81 in my 12-team head-to-head points Tout Wars league. So 81 out of $1,000 budget right there, 8%. And Jose Miranda went for 45 in that league. So, 5 to 8% for each of those two. A few other prospects I wanted to mention here. Philly shortstop Bryson Stott was recalled with Didi Gregorius going back on the IL in 9 games at AAA. Stott hit .333 with 2 homers and 2 steals. And then the Red Sox promoted Jarren Duran on Friday. He led off for them. He hit a triple. And then that was with Enrique Hernandez on the COVID IL. Hernandez returned on Saturday. Jarren Duran was optioned back down. So not sure when we'll see him again. But Chris, do you have any interest in Bryson Stott maybe in some deeper leagues?
I would have been more interested in him if he had been able to pick up third base eligibility, and I don't know how many games he ended up playing there before they sent him down. But
yeah, I didn't get it.
Yeah, so that would probably make me a little more interested with triple eligibility. But yeah, I think he's a somewhat interesting player if he gets an opportunity, and obviously Alec Boehm's hitting the ball really well, and I'm pretty optimistic about what we've seen, but I do want to caution that he's not necessarily a dramatically different player than he was last season. His ground ball rate is very similar to what it was last season. He's hitting more line drives, I think. But, there's still a chance that Alec Boehm cools down and the defense is really, really bad. And Bryson Stott could get hot and take that job. So I just still think there's some appeal there, but probably not worth adding in any 12-team leagues.
Yeah, 15-teamers, NL only for now.
Yeah.
We'll see how he performs with the Phillies. Let's take a look at some other waiver wire hitters that emerged over the weekend. I keep bringing up the name, but Austin Hayes, this man is hot right now. 5 hits across a doubleheader on Sunday. He's now batting .317 overall, 52% rostered, 7 games this week. Scott, what do you think about adding Austin Hayes maybe in 3 outfielder leagues?
I'm pretty skeptical of Austin Hayes still. He plays in one of the worst parks for a right-handed hitter now, first of all.
True.
Look, his strikeout rate is pretty good. I believe he's got a good launch angle. The expected stats look fine. But not a walker, not helped by his home park, not helped by his lineup. He seems like a worse version of Ryan Mountcastle to me, and I don't like Ryan Mountcastle. So he's a hot hand, but other than that, I don't think I'm looking to add Austin Hayes.
All right. I know, Scott, one of your sleepers for this week was Jeimer Candelario. He is heating up. He's batting .308 with 2 homers over his last 7 games. He's 48% rostered and has 8 games this upcoming week if you need a third baseman or a corner infielder. Andres Jimenez, he is hot as well. His last 10 games, .405 batting average, 1 homer, 3 doubles, 1 steal. He's 41% rostered, and he has 6 road games this week. Chris, if you need a middle infielder in, let's say, a 12-team categories league, do you have any interest in Andres Jimenez?
I wish he was running more. His batted ball quality of contact stuff is better than it was last season. It's still not good, and I'm not sure it ever will be good. But if he could be a 20 stolen base guy, you could get away with him, hitting for a little bit of average and not having much pop. But I'm not so sure that's what we're, at least we haven't seen the stolen bases from him yet. And so I think he's fine as a middle infield option. There aren't a ton of those, especially, if you didn't pay up for a couple of shortstops in a roto league. So, yeah, I think he's an okay ad. There are encouraging signs. His XBA is 295. That's a really good sign. So, yeah.
I'm surprised that Jimenez hasn't run more. I mean, the sprint speed is not everything, obviously, but 95th percentile, and Cleveland usually is pretty aggressive on the base paths. So
he just
maybe
may not have had many opportunities because he's walked twice, and he's got
great.
Let's see, he's got 18 singles, so he's really only had 20 opportunities where he's been on first base. Who knows how many times second base was open ahead of him? So,
I noticed you didn't come to me with that Jimenez take, Frank.
A 1.9% walk rate will tend to have a deflationary impact on your stolen base totals.
I have players that I just gravitate towards, and Scott just wants nothing to do with them. And Andres Jimenez is one of those players. So,
but yeah,
if people were
got 21 steals in 417 plate appearances. So,
I mean,
if he starts running more, that could be a potentially very useful player.
I think he should run more. Obviously, he was part of a big trade with Francisco Lindor. I really like what I've seen so far. So again,
maybe he'll be what I hoped Nicky Lopez would be, and that'll be, a serviceable low-end starter in a rotisserie league. Disappointed in Nick. I'm going to drop him this weekend. He hasn't stolen a single base yet. He had like 22 in 4 months' time last year, and he hasn't stolen even one.
You should have thrown your weight behind Tyler Wade instead.
Yeah, apparently, yeah.
Oh, yikes. Speaking of steals, by the way, Scott, if you need those steals, who do you like between these two outfielders? Manny Margot is hot right now. 3 straight games with a home run. His last 7 games, he's batting .500. He's got 3 homers, 2 steals during that time. He's 23% rostered. And then Harrison Bader had 4 hits with a home run and a steal this weekend. I believe he's up to 7 steals now. He is 41% rostered. What do you think of Margot versus Harrison Bader?
Well, I hadn't noticed how hot Margot is. My goodness. Maybe I'm just so used to ignoring him. He's like the Andres Jimenez of outfielders.
Oh, stop.
I'll pull up the data here, but I'm not sure it's going to convince me Manuel Margot is suddenly a changed player here this deep into his career. He's 27, so he's not as old as you think he is.
That is actually kind of shocking.
He is.
His
hitting the ball hard.
Numbers are tremendous, actually.
They look good, yeah. Will they continue to look good? I would still bet against it, but I would say between the two, Margot's a little more interesting.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, for those in 5 outfielder leagues, Manny Margot, the expected batting average is .337 right now. The average exit velocity way up for Manny Margot. Chris, someone that I was looking to add in some deeper leagues this weekend, Brandon Drury. He had 6 hits this weekend, including his 5th home run, and his barrel rate is way up this year, 17.9%. That's in the 95th percentile. He's hitting the ball hard. He's only 8% rostered, triple eligible on CBS, second, third base, outfield. He's got 7 games this week, including 4 going up against the Pirates. Chris, do you have any interest in Brandon Drury?
I can't say I have a ton of interest in him. Like, yeah, the StatCast data does look good. And maybe that's maybe there's something I'm missing. Maybe he reinvented himself this offseason and there's reason to buy it. But his track record is long enough that and underwhelming enough that I think it's probably just a hot streak. So, yeah, I can't say outside of even in a 15-team leagues, like I wasn't looking to add him.
All right. Scott,
yeah,
go ahead.
And we've made this point before, but when particularly we're still in the early stages of the season. It hasn't been 6 weeks yet. Particularly in the early stages of the season, but to some degree, this applies year round. Like the StatCast data confirming a player's numbers is of less interest to me than the StatCast data not confirming a player's number in either direction. Like the data looks great, but the numbers aren't good. The data looks bad, but the numbers are great. If the data looks like the numbers, then it's hard to tell which came first, the chicken or the egg, you know? That's especially true this time of year, as we've said before. But I think it's worth reiterating.
Well, and just like, to put it a different way, sometimes guys just do get hot.
Right.
And like, it's possible
and it's going to show up in the data. It's not that they just got lucky. They got hot.
Like that's, there's like, we often think about it maybe in like oh, this is a fluke. Like Wanya Paz getting those 2 bloop doubles. That's a fluke. You know, you can't rely on that. But sometimes guys just do hit the ball really well, but it's not sustainable as well. So that would be my assumption of what's going on with Brandon Drury. But, you know, it's possible that that's not entirely fair.
All right, a few other names in deeper leagues. I keep mentioning Yadiel Hernandez hit another home run on Saturday. He's 16% rostered. He's got 6 home games this week, only 1 lefty on the schedule. Ben Gamel in the deepest of leagues, 10 hits over his last 5 games. He's making more contact this year. He walks a good amount of time, hitting a lot of line drives. His XBA is 334. That is Ben Gamel. He's only 5% rostered. And then Colin Moran hit a double dong on Sunday, including a grand slam. He is 11% rostered. They have 7 games this week, 1 lefty on the schedule. Again, that is Colin Moran. The drop meter, I want to run through some of these hitters. These are some of the most dropped hitters right now on CBS. Spencer Torkelson is now down to 81% rostered. Chris, where are you at Drop-O-Meter Torkelson?
He's been my starter in, I think, the For the People League, which is a 16-team, 3 outfielder head-to-head points rosters league. And I'm benching him now, but I'm probably not sitting or dropping him. There's still some pretty promising signs. He's hitting the ball really hard. And so I'm willing to give him some more time.
I think in like head-to-head leagues, let's say leagues where fewer than 300 players are rostered.
Yeah.
I am willing to drop him at this point, recognizing, I mean, yeah, it could be a slow start for a rookie, getting used to major league pitching, just had a really cold April where most of the league sucked at hitting. You know, he could bounce back, but you're obviously not at a point where you could afford to start him anymore in a lineup where there are 9 hitter spots, you know? Mm-hmm. So mm-hmm. I think it's fair to move on for now in that kind of format.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Nelson Cruz is down to 79% rostered. Scott, where are you at Drop-O-Meter on Nelson Cruz?
Probably the same distinction, honestly. Like I've been like even the past couple of years, I felt Nelson Cruz is a difficult player to deal with in a head-to-head league because he so often has these minor injuries that you're not sure whether to start him or not, and he's only rosterable in that one lineup. He's mm-hmm. only startable in that one spot. And
I mean, even like Shohei Ohtani, he's awesome. But having him only DH eligible, like, it limits what you can do. I've got him in one of the head-to-head points leagues and in a roster that's that small. Mm-hmm. Having that DH only player, it's frustrating, even when it's a really good player.
If you're asking me what are the odds Nelson Cruz is still Nelson Cruz and goes on to hit 30-plus homers the rest of the way, I'd say better than not. So, like, if it's, you know, if we're deciding between him and Austin Hayes, okay, I'll hold on to Nelson Cruz. If we're deciding between Nelson Cruz and George Kirby, okay, you can drop Nelson Cruz.
Mm-hmm. Would you drop him for someone like Juan Yepez?
No.
All right. How about Jurickson Profar? Is the experiment over? He is down to 71% rostered, the fourth most dropped hitter on CBS. Chris, where are you at Drop-O-Meter on Profar?
10.
10? All right. Frank Schwindel. Yeah. Frank Schwindel, we mentioned, was optioned back to the minors. Scott, is this a 10 as well? Must drop.
Yeah, that's. I mean, with him in the minors, who knows where his career goes from here? We may never see him again. But Profar, I want to comment on Profar because, like, I do not understand some of the dedication I've seen to Profar on fantasy baseball Twitter. Like, The guy's batting 160 now. Have you seen what his career track record looks like? Have you seen what the data looks like? Like, there's no reason to be optimistic about Jurickson Profar, and yet some people insist you have to hold on to him. I don't get that at all. I agree with Chris. It's a 10.
I got faked out by it. There were some early season signs for Profar. He was pulling the ball more. He was hitting the ball hard. But
when the numbers were good and nobody's hitting in the league, I don't blame anybody for taking a shot on him. I'm sure I featured him in a waiver wire column at some point. But it was with the understanding this is probably fake. Be ready to pull the plug quickly. Well, I think we're there. Like, let it go.
All right, Chris, just give me a number here. Avisail Garcia, 64% rostered. Where is he on the drop-o-meter?
7 or 8.
Fair enough. Scott, Nate Lowe. He's down to 55% rostered. What do you think?
I do have him as my 10th sleeper hitter this week. But you know how sleeper hitters work. Once you get to number 10, they're really not that good anymore. So I'm fine calling Nate Lowe a 10.
All right, Chris, I swear I didn't plan just giving you all the Marlins hitters, but Jesus Sanchez has also slowed down quite a bit. He's 82% rostered. Where is he on the drop-o-meter? You are muted, sir.
Hit the button. That's another one that I think it's in that same... It's in one of my 3 outfitter leagues, and I'm pretty close to dropping him. I would prefer not to. I think there are still some promising signs, but the strikeout rate's back up to 30%. And so as long as that's the case, like, I think he's going to hit the ball well when he does, but he's not going to hit the ball so well that he's going to be a must-start guy or a must-roster guy with a 30% K rate. So I would say 7 or 8.
All right, Scott, you get Gavin Lux. He is 69% rostered. What are we doing with Lux?
I haven't looked at Lux in a while, to be honest, but
the quality of contact metrics look worse. The average exit velocity especially has taken a hit, although the hard hit rate's still 71%, 71st percentile, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So the expected stats are pretty good, but that's obviously within the context of a different ball. And, you know, if the average exit velocity and max exit velocity are middling to below average, that could be the kind of guy who falls in between last year's context and this year's context, where the underlying numbers in a different context suggest that he could be a pretty good hitter, but in this context, he just might not have enough juice.
I'll tell you this, though. Pretty fringy middle infielder, Gavin Lux. I'd rather have him than Andres Jimenez.
Scott, how dare you? No, it's all right. I mean, they're, I guess,
you
kind of similar players.
The one thing is Gavin Lux is another guy I wish he ran more, and he probably never will on the Dodgers, but he's consistently been like really, really highly ranked in the sprint speed numbers, 95th percentile this season. There's potential for him to be a better base stealer than he is.
It is a little surprising. The Dodgers have been pretty aggressive on the base paths. I know even Freddie Freeman has a few steals this year, so we haven't really seen it with Lux yet, but it seems like he would have that skill. Let's take a quick break, and when we return, we'll get to some of the news and notes here on Fantasy Baseball Today. The news and notes. Let's start off with Chris Sale, who is behind schedule by a few weeks after dealing with a non-baseball medical issue. He is currently on the IL with a stress fracture in his rib cage. Jack Flaherty made some progress and threw a bullpen session on Saturday. Per Katie Wu on Twitter, it was the highest intensity he's thrown with yet. Flaherty threw mostly fastballs, but was able to mix in his breaking stuff near the end of the session. Mike Soroka, attempting to return from a second Achilles surgery, hasn't had any setbacks in his recovery process and has been doing some mound work recently. The team is hoping he can return sometime around the All-Star break. Teoscar Hernandez was reinstated from the IL on Saturday, so get him back in your lineups. Nick Lodolo was examined Friday night, and it was determined he wasn't ready to rejoin the rotation. He is still on the IL with that back injury. Andrew Heaney has joined the Dodgers in Chicago and started a throwing progression this weekend. Alex Kirilloff was reinstated this weekend as well. He started at first base on Saturday and Sunday. Scott, would you look to add Alex Kirilloff? He's 54% rostered.
Honestly, I'd add either of those other Twins hitters over him. The other ones being Jose Miranda and Royce Lewis. Kirilloff, on his rehab assignment, went 5 for 21 all singles. And they wanted to keep him there, but I think just all the injuries forced their hand, and they ended up calling him back up. So they say the wrist feels better. I'm not, they never figured out the source of the hurt. They just gave him a cortisone injection and said, we'll see how it goes. So I'm not super confident in Kirilloff right now.
Josh Rojas returned and started at third base both Friday and Saturday. He's 28% rostered and has second base, shortstop, and outfield eligibility for those in deeper category leagues. Chris Paddock left Sunday start with right elbow inflammation, and as we mentioned, that should help Josh Winder stay in the rotation. These players were placed on the IL this weekend. Carson Kelly with a strained left oblique, Trevor Larnach with a right groin strain, Michael Wacha with left intercostal irritation, Roberto Perez with a strained left hamstring, Stephen Piscotty with a grade 1 calf strain, Rich Hill tested positive for COVID and was placed on the IL. Garrett Whitlock will remain in the rotation for now. Brian Anderson was placed on the COVID IL Friday and missed all 3 games this weekend. A few other non-IL notes. Keston Hiura optioned back to AAA. Robinson Cano officially released by the Mets. Casey Mize is nearing a rehab assignment, currently on the IL with a sprained right elbow. Starters sit these currently banged up players. Carlos Correa, we just don't really know what's going on right now. He did not appear in a game this weekend. He seems unlikely for Tuesday. Chris, would you get Correa out of your lineups?
Yeah, I think you got to set him at this point.
How about your boy Byron Buxton? He exited Saturday's game with right hip tightness, and he wasn't in the lineup on Sunday. Starter sit.
Was it his right hip last year?
I know he's dealt with some hip stuff.
I know that was the hip injury last season, but I can't remember if it was the right or the left. It was the right, so that's a little concerning that it's, the same hip, but it doesn't sound like anybody's too concerned about it this time, so I would start him.
All right. Zach Wheeler was placed on the COVID IL Sunday. Scott, would you take a chance and leave Wheeler in your lineups?
I can't Did he actually test positive, or did he just get placed on the IL?
They don't have to report it.
Yeah, there was no indication.
Sometimes they do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they didn't in his case. I think I'd play it safe and set him. I mean, he's trending the right direction. I feel a lot better about him. But if he did actually test positive, he's not making a start this week.
Yeah, it's tough. Yohan Moncada will be activated on Monday. Chris, would you get Moncada back in there?
I would probably prefer to see him. There was that report we got last week that he was, I can't remember how they worded it, but he was behind hitting left-handed. He wasn't feeling as good hitting left-handed as he does right-handed as he came back from that injury. And that's a concern because Yohan Moncada is one of those switch hitters in name only kind of guys where he really isn't all that good against left-handed pitchers. So I want to see him. He did hit very well in his minor league rehab assignment. So that's a positive sign.
All right. Brandon Belt exited Saturday's game with neck stiffness. He was out of the lineup Sunday. Scott, would you get Belt out of your lineups?
Yeah, I think so, if I could.
Mm-hmm. How about Adam Wainwright, your boy? He tested positive for COVID on Friday.
Yeah.
I mean, he has to test negative twice. It's probably going to be tough for him to start this week.
Right. Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of when I said it. And he did. Yeah. We know Wainwright tested positive. So if I'm sitting Wheeler in the chance that he did, I'm definitely sitting Wainwright.
All right. The last two names here, Andrew McCutchen placed on the COVID IL. We don't really know exactly what's going on with him. JP Crawford exited Saturday's game and did not start Sunday because of back spasms. He's been awesome, but probably more of a fringe play. So if you could find a better shortstop or just a shortstop in general, you probably want to go that route. Three interesting pitchers from this weekend. You're welcome, everybody. I didn't watch a single pitch of Charlie Morton on Sunday, and he threw his best start of the season. 5 shutout innings, 2 hits, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts. Shane Bieber got rocked on Saturday by the Blue Jays. He allowed 7 runs over 3 1/3 innings. And then Sandy Alcantara, he's just kind of been meh. His last 2 outings have been subpar. He didn't go 5 innings in this most recent start. It seems like the walks have been an issue for him so far as well. Scott, we'll start with you. What have you seen, or what did you see rather with Charlie Morton, Shane Bieber, and Sandy Alcantara recently?
Well, I don't think Morton is back necessarily, though you were justified in starting him for the 2-start week when all's said and done. I will point that out. Got a few more whiffs in this start, mostly with the curveball, but still had 3 walks in 5 innings, which is unlike him. So he's trending the right direction, but I don't know that he's back to being must start. I'm not really worried about Alcantara at all. The control seems a little off, but I think he's fine. If you want to call him a buy low, I'm fine with that. I think the most interesting one here is Bieber, because, of course, he's been interesting all season, and he's gotten away with greatly reduced velocity, averaged 89.9 on his fastball in this one. So it was a little down from his season average, actually. And it's the first start of his career that he didn't have a single strikeout. Now, an article came out from The Athletic before this start talking about Bieber's velocity decline and some of the things the Guardians are looking into related to it. And basically, they think he developed some bad habits in protecting the shoulder last year, and they're trying to get his delivery right again. And they sound very confident they're going to be able to in that article. That's the impression the article was giving. And Bieber himself, I think he was asked the question in the article, what do you think you're going to be able to sustain this performance all season throwing at this velocity? And he said, I don't even think that's going to be an issue, because he's that confident he's going to get the velocity back. So, between that and the fact that all his other starts were good prior to this one, I'm not inclined to worry that much. I mean, you're going against the Blue Jays lineup, lower velocity. If nothing else, it means when you do get hit hard, you're going to get hit that much harder. So I kind of think that's what happened here against a lineup that's really good, obviously. But of course, it does raise some worry, because this is the first time that we've actually seen that velocity come back to bite him.
Yeah. All right, Shane Bieber, name to watch moving forward. We'll see.
And it's worth pointing out, the results had been pretty good, but the strikeout rate wasn't what we had seen before. It was 25%, which is above average, but Shane Bieber's probably not going to be a top 12 starting pitcher with a 25% strikeout rate. He's not that guy. Zach Wheeler can do that, but Shane Bieber gets hit hard. He needs an elite strikeout rate. So I'm more worried about Robbie Ray, obviously, but I view them pretty similarly. I think there are similar warning signs for both of those guys.
Okay. So maybe more top 15 or top 20 starting pitchers than the top 10 or 12 that we were hoping coming in.
That's definitely where they'd be ranked. Yeah. I was lower on Bieber coming in. He was like 12 or 13 for me already. So yeah, that's definitely closer to where I'm at with them.
All right, let's move over to some waiver wire starting pitchers. Part 1. Bruce Zimmerman has now allowed 3 earned runs or fewer in all 6 of his starts. He did that again on Sunday. 6 innings, 2 runs, 5 strikeouts. Chad Kuhl makes it 4 straight quality starts. Friday at Arizona, 6 innings, 1 run, 5 strikeouts there. Tyler Anderson has now allowed 2 earned runs or fewer in all 5 of his starts/appearances. He had 7 strikeouts over 5 innings against the Cubs on Saturday. And then Dane Dunning, 3 strong starts in a row. He was at the Yankees on Sunday, 6 innings, 1 run, 5 strikeouts to 3 walks. Chris, how do you rank these 4? Bruce Zimmerman, Chad Kuhl, Tyler Anderson, Dane Dunning.
I think I would go Zimmerman, Dunning, Anderson, Kuhl. Kuhl, I don't see much there. The ERA is pretty and the strikeout rate's fine, but 385 xFIP, 406 Sierra. If he actually had a 385 ERA, he wouldn't be rosterable, I don't think, at this point, given the way pitchers are right now. So I think you can probably safely avoid him outside of some deeper leagues. But, the Zimmerman, it's a question of how good you can be with a fastball that is one of the worst in baseball in terms of the results he gets from it, and that's been consistent whenever he's pitched, and it's been pretty bad this season too. So, he's walking a fine line, and I think eventually he's probably going to fall on the wrong side of it. But I'm pretty happy with what he's done so far. And then Dunning, I don't know, we had several people on Sunday on Twitter, you guys have to talk about Dane Dunning. And I look at it and I don't see all that much interesting there. the stuff seems pretty middling still. He's not getting a ton of swinging strikes either. So I don't know. I think it's probably just a nice run for Dane Dunning, but it's probably not much more than that.
I am encouraged for Dane Dunning that he has lowered his sinker usage this year. Last season, it was 52%. This year, it's 38%. So anytime you're lowering, a sinker is a pitch that you throw to make contact for in exchange for other pitches like the slider or changeup, which he just gets better results on. I'm pretty intrigued by that. And he has a 50% ground ball rate for the season. And, they're kind of letting him go this year. They're letting him throw like deeper into starts. We didn't really see that much from Dunning last season. So I think I would agree that Bruce Zimmerman is number 1 on this list, but like Dane Dunning is probably like a 1B to Bruce Zimmerman.
It was more interesting in his previous start. Dunning, he got 14 whiffs and threw 42% sliders. They were primarily responsible for the swinging strikes. And remember when he first got called up by the White Sox and was missing a lot of bats? It was largely because of that slider. He followed it up with this start where it was just 9 whiffs on 100 pitches and he didn't throw the slider. It kind of reminds me of that Drew Rasmussen start against the Mariners where he changed up his pitch mix a little and got a ton of whiffs. And we're like, oh my goodness, maybe Drew Rasmussen's figured something out. And then his last 2 starts, they've been fine, kind of like this Dunning start was, but he hasn't looked nearly as overpowering.
And I think the other problem is, historically his sinker's not been a great pitch for him. And his changeup hasn't been a great pitch for him. The changeup's been getting hit really hard this season. And so it does kind of look like he might just be a one-pitch pitcher who throws 89 miles an hour. So, yeah, I think he can be better than he has been, but there's a gap between better than Dane Dunning has been and, relevant in 12-team leagues.
So I will just mention 2 of these pitchers are on my top 10 sleeper pitchers for this week. Bruce Zimmerman going against the Tigers, and Tyler Anderson going against maybe the Pirates, maybe the Phillies. There's some question whether the Dodgers are going to insert a 6th starter because they're playing like 30 games in 31 days or something.
There's a little bit of a difference between those 2.
Yeah.
I feel a lot better starting him against the Pirates.
Right.
True.
But he's been pretty good so far. Tyler Anderson has, and had 15 swinging strikes in this most recent start.
Yeah.
Look, it's
he changed up his pitch mix quite a bit. Maybe it was just another 1-start fluke for him. But the Dodgers are pretty on top of these things. So if like any team's going to get the most out of Tyler Anderson, you'd think it's them.
That's exactly it. It's just, it seems like any pitcher the Dodgers come in contact with just turns to gold. So Tyler Anderson is the name there. Waiver wire starting pitchers part 2. A few names here. Kyle Freeland now has 4 straight starts, allowing 2 earned runs or fewer. Jake Odorizzi, 3 solid outings in a row. James Caprillion allowed just 1 run over 5 2/3 against the Twins on Saturday. Nick Pivetta picked up his first quality start of the season. He had 8 strikeouts. And then Spencer Strider, impressive once again as a bulk reliever against the Brewers. 4 shutout innings with 8 strikeouts to 0 walks. Scott, anything to see here? Freeland, Odorizzi, Caprillion, Pivetta, Spencer Strider.
I think with Strider, definitely. I think this may be happening where he's about to transition to the rotation. They've tried a couple other guys in that 5th starter spot, Elder and Noah, and it didn't work out. I think they're getting to the point where they're left with no choice but Strider, who this was his longest start yet, and they didn't. I think this was the first time they had him follow like an opener as opposed to following a true starter in his relief appearance. And he looked great, and he's looked better, especially good the past 2 outings. So I think that may be about to happen. I think you need to pick up Strider if he's still available in your league.
Yeah, he's definitely like in categories-based leagues. I think it's harder in points leagues, even if he's in the rotation, just because I don't know how deep he'll pitch into games, just because I do wonder if he's just a 2-pitch guy. And I do wonder if there's a little bit of like a Matt Brash thing where he might get exposed pitching in the rotation, just because from what I've seen, I think, Saris tweeted about this when Brash got sent down. He made the Spencer Strider comp where he's got really, really great stuff and the control metrics don't look nearly as good. And so that's just the concern I have, but I still think he's interesting enough that it's worth taking a flyer on him.
I will mention because his last 2 outings I said were especially good. One of the stories that's been circulating in the media about Strider is prior to the first of those 2 outings, he had a conversation with Max Fried. Typical stuff like trusting your stuff, don't try and strike everybody out. But he's been candid about basically I was just trying to strike everybody out and now I'm not. And he's still getting the strikeouts because the stuff is that good. So, maybe he turned a corner there developmentally, that in a way that's not shown in the overall data yet.
All right, let's get into some leftovers from the weekend. A few pitching standouts. Part 1, Eric Lauer makes it 4 straight quality starts, 3 straight starts of 8+ strikeouts. Merrill Kelly, I mentioned, a near complete game, came 1 out away against the Colorado Rockies. And then Yu Darvish, 4 straight quality starts. And I noticed his cutter usage over this span, this 4-start stretch, is 33%. In his first 2 starts, just 18% on the cutter usage. Chris, do you have anything that you'd like to add on Lauer, Merrill Kelly, Yu Darvish?
Lauer, I just continue to be very impressed with the velocity up, with the pitch usage that he's showing. Swing strike rate, really, really impressive. I think this is a legitimate breakout as long as the added velocity is there. I mean, he was pretty good last year with lower velocity. So if he's going to be, throwing 95 or higher, I mean, not averaging 95, but hitting 95 consistently, I think Eric Lauer is someone, I think I moved him in my top 50 starting pitchers in my most recent update. So I'm very, very interested in what he's doing.
And that is definitely warranted too. Scott, you have him at SP 35. That's Eric Lauer. I have him at 45. And Chris, you have him at 101.
Oh,
no,
maybe did I not hit save on that one? Man?
You might have done.
I didn't do it in head-to-head points. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. So get him inside your top 50, and then we'll talk it out. Pitching standouts part 2 from the weekend. Clayton Kershaw hurls 7 scoreless at the Cubs on Saturday. Kevin Gausman, 4 straight quality starts. He finally walked a batter. He has 46 strikeouts to 1 walk. Absolutely ridiculous. His swinging strike rate and chase rate are both number 1 among qualified starting pitchers. And then we had a pitcher's duel between Corbin Burnes and Max Fried on Saturday. Fried, 7 innings, 1 run, 8 strikeouts. Corbin Burnes, 6 innings, 2 runs, 7 strikeouts. Scott, anything you'd like to add on Corbin Burnes, Max Fried, Kevin Gausman, Clayton Kershaw?
Nothing that's worth getting that much into. I did notice for Fried, though, that he had 15 swinging strikes on 95 pitches, more than usual for him. He had 5 on 11 changeups. If that pitch becomes more of a weapon for him, the league is in serious trouble.
It really does look like it, too, because he's throwing that changeup a career-high 12%. This is Max Fried, and he has a 25% swinging strike rate on that changeup. So to go along with the fastball velo, which is up a little bit, and the curveball and the slider, Max Fried, I mean, looks like just a legitimate top 20, maybe even top 15 starting pitcher moving forward. Pitcher standouts part 3, a few names here. Dylan Cease, 8+ strikeouts in 5 of his 6 starts. He did that again against the Red Sox this weekend. Pablo Lopez, a fantastic bounce back, 8 shutout innings with 5 strikeouts. Garrett Cole has posted 3 straight quality starts in a row. He had 10 strikeouts over 6 1/3 on Sunday. And then Zach Gallen was awesome once again, 7 shutout innings, 7 strikeouts to 0 walks. Completely, I continue to be very encouraged that the walks are down consistently for Zach Gallen. Chris, anything on Cease, Lopez, Cole, Gallen?
Cease I was skeptical of him coming in. I still think I had him as a top 35 starting pitcher, but clearly I probably should have had him ranked higher. He looks really good. Don't really have much to add beyond that. Pablo Lopez shaved his head, going with the clean-shaven look, and I think we can all agree that's a great look. So I think that explains why he was so much better today. No, he's awesome. Him and Gallen and Kershaw from the previous group, we talked about them a couple weeks ago. I think they all had a really great start on the same day a few weeks back, and we talked about just how hard it is to actually rank those guys rest of season, because there's where you rank them right now And I think Pablo Lopez and Clayton Kershaw are top 20 starting pitchers at least, if not, maybe even a little bit higher than that right now for their next start. And Zach Allen, probably top 36 starting pitcher for his next start, for week 6. How do you rank them moving forward when Gallen especially seems like just a Tommy John surgery waiting to happen, given that he was dealing with UCL damage last year, and Clayton Kershaw had the elbow or the forearm thing, and Pablo Lopez has had shoulder issues in 3 of the last 4 seasons. So I think all of them are sell high candidates. And that's not to say that I don't think they'll pitch well moving forward, but it's just, it could end at any moment, and that is true for every single starting pitcher. But for them especially, it's just a question of your particular level of risk tolerance.
And I think most people, Chris, where they got those specific 3 names, you might have got them as your SP3, your SP4. Maybe for Gallen, your SP5 or your SP6.
Yeah, so he was even much later than that.
So if you have the pitching depth to spare and you're struggling on offense right now, again, we'll keep mentioning the very clear buy low hitters, Whit Merrifield, Jose Abreu, Ketel Marte has been coming around. But I would say if you can flip a Zach Gallen for one of those guys, or even with Lopez and Kershaw, if you want to aim a little bit higher on the hitter spectrum, then go for it. Some hitting leftovers from the weekend, a nice little weekend for Ronald Acuna, who looks just fine. He's playing the outfield again, 5 hits, 2 homers, 2 steals this weekend. Eugenio Suarez had a double dong on Friday. He's 74% rostered. Quality of contact, not great for him, but he does have a 17% barrel rate. That is Eugenio Suarez. Brandon Lau had a double dong on Saturday, both coming off of a lefty and Marco Gonzalez. Pete Alonso had a double dong on Sunday. He's now up to 7 home runs for this season. These names are coming around. Franmil Reyes, 11 hits, 1 homer over his last 5 games. Jose Abreu has 6 hits, 5 RBI over his last 4. Jared Walsh is heating up. He's got 9 hits, 3 home runs over his last 5 games. Kyle Schwarber, over his last 7, he's hitting .321, 3 homers, 1 steal. Cedric Mullins, over his last 7, he's hitting .344, 2 homers, 1 steal. Ketel Marte, over his last 7, .417 batting average, 1 home run, and 1 steal. A few bullpen notes that I wanted to mention for the Astros. Rafael Montero picked up his 3rd save on Friday. That was one day after Ryan Presley returned and he blew his save chance. Presley was back at it on Saturday. He picked up his 4th save. Fastball velocity still down, so I want to pay attention to that for him.
Yeah, I picked up on Montero in a couple of those 15-team leagues where saves are scarce, just in case Presley's not able to figure this out and not able to cope with lesser velocity, because Montero did fine in his absence.
For the Twins this weekend, on Friday, Emilio Pagan picked up his 3rd save. And then on Saturday, Yohan Duran pitched the final 2 innings. He picked up his 2nd save. And then Pagan was the closer again on Sunday, picking up his 4th save. This looks like a clear committee or a split, whatever you want to call it. But I think both of those guys, Duran and Pagan, are going to get saves moving forward.
I think there's a bit of motivated reasoning going on with Duran in fantasy circles, because he looks so good and he looks like he could be such an impactful fantasy closer, that I think like every sign that we get of him potentially being used as a closer is getting overblown. And I get it, because I think he's a really interesting player, but I would say at this point, I would think Pagan would probably get 60% of the save chances moving forward, if not more.
I can't really argue with you. I think Duran is the better pitcher, but clearly it's something they like with Pagan as well. For the Diamondbacks on Friday, Mark Melancon returned. He recorded 1 out for his 5th save. And then on Saturday, he came in a 1-run game and he got destroyed. 5 hits, 4 runs. He takes his first blown save, his 3rd loss of the season. For the Cardinals on Friday, Ryan Helsley recorded 5 outs across the 7th and 8th innings of a tie game. He struck out 4. St. Louis took the lead in the 9th. Giovanni Gallegos came in and picked up his 6th save. For the Giants, Camilo Doval entered a tie game on Friday. He gave up 2 hits and a run. He took the loss. And then on Sunday, he was back at it. He struck out 2 and picked up his 5th save of the season. For the Pirates on Saturday, David Bednar got his 4th save. For the Red Sox, Anto Robles will never get another save. I am confident in that because I have him on my fantasy teams. It's so
But who will?
Yeah.
I don't know for their team. So
It
on
doesn't seem
Saturday,
like there's anybody else.
Hansel Robles, he gets a save opportunity, 1-run game. He gives up a walk, a double, sac fly, boom, tie game. Matt Barnes pitches in the 10th inning. He gives up 2 runs. He takes the loss.
You remember that there was that year in like 2019 or 2018 when Ken Giles had like a 4.5 ERA, but it was like 90% of his earned runs came in like a handful of non-save situations. I feel like Hansel Robles is having the opposite of that season, where his overall numbers actually look pretty good. Like last time I saw it, I was like, oh, he's actually having a decent season. It's just that like when he's pitching in save situations, he just has not been nearly as good, it feels like. I don't know.
So
I don't think that's something to be worried about. Like, I think if you think Hansel Robles is good moving forward, then you should probably think he'll be good. And that might be enough for him to be the closer, but you just can't have any faith in it right now.
The name I'm watching there right now is Matt Strahm. He's pitched okay for them, but he's another lefty. I don't know if they want to use a lefty in the 9th inning. The expected ERA for Hansel Robles is 5.47. So he's allowing a lot of hard contact. Not great there. For the Royals on Sunday, Scott Barlow picked up his second save. Josh Stallmont hasn't pitched since last Sunday. For the Orioles on Sunday, Jorge Lopez pitched in game 1. He wasn't available for game 2. Dylan Tate picked up his first save. Joe Barlow got his 4th save for the Rangers. For the Nationals, Tanner Rainey got knocked around a little bit. He gave up 3 hits, 3 runs, took a blown save and a loss. For Tampa Bay, I want to pay attention to this one too. I picked up Brooks Raley in a few deeper category leagues. Kittredge came in the 8th inning. It was a 1-run game. Then he came back out for the 9th. He gave up a solo home run. They tied the game. But I know Brooks Raley has either, I think, 2 saves over the past week or 2 weeks. So they're kind of doing some Tampa Bay Rays-ish things again. So pay attention there. And then for the Marlins on Sunday, Anthony Bender, he pitched in the 6th inning up 2-0. The 6th inning. This guy used to be the closer. Cole Sulser came in for the save. He gave up 3 hits, 3 earned runs, takes his first blown save and first loss.
It's all coming up Dylan Floro.
That's what it looks
it's like the Reds situation with Lucas Sims, where there was an opportunity for someone to run away with it when he was hurt, and it just doesn't seem like anybody's done it. I don't know if Floro's going to be back and effective, but
yeah, that's kind of been Sims' problem, right?
Yeah. But I think Floro's going to get a real opportunity.
All right, some streamers for Monday and Tuesday. We'll start with Monday. Carlos Hernandez at the Orioles, Jose Quintana versus the Dodgers, Michael Pineda versus the A's, Chris Flexen versus the Phillies, Eliezer Hernandez at the Diamondbacks. Blah.
Not great, Bob.
Yeah, no. I'm starting Pineda in a points league with 2 starts, but wouldn't be streaming him.
I think Eliezer Hernandez just got crushed by the Diamondbacks last time, right? His last start.
Yeah, and this
might be his last stand.
Could be his last stand. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna say no.
Fingers crossed on that one. I nothing against Eliezer, but I'd like to see Max Meyer.
Yeah, it's a fun time. We got all these prospects calling up. Let's get Max Meyer in the mix too. I guess if you need one, I would say Pineda, but just don't do it. Tuesday, we've got Reed Detmers versus Tampa Bay, Yusei Kikuchi at the Yankees, and Madison Bumgarner up against the Marlins.
This isn't
and he didn't allow any runs last time he faced the Marlins. I don't know if you guys remember that. Shutout inning.
That was like romantic hand checking by the umpire. I don't know what.
Held his hand a little too long. You didn't like that.
I want, like, Detmers and Kikuchi are both guys that I really want to be good, but I can't trust them right now in a streaming situation.
Nope.
So
I mean, Bumgarner's the best choice if I have to pick one.
I think so. Yeah.
Monday and Tuesday.
Any further than I could throw.
Wasn't Kikuchi good in his most recent start against the Yankees, though?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
I always worry about pitchers facing the same team 2 starts in a row, especially
hitters fare better the more times they see a pitcher. So that's a real concern.
All right. No streamers for Monday and Tuesday. That's the moral of the story. We're going to wrap there. For Scott and Chris, I am Frank. Thank you all for listening and watching Fantasy Baseball today. We'll be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.